Okay, this video is entitled Rahu and Artificial Intelligence. So let's talk a little bit about Rahu. Rahu is the deity in Vedic astrology which rules the animal mind. He is an instinctual and compulsive entity. In many ways, Rahu rules the modern age. So let's go over the story of Rahu's birth so we can understand a little bit more about this planet. There was a demon in ancient times known as Svarabanu. And there was a thing called the churning of the Milky Ocean. This is when the Devas and the Asuras, the gods and the demons, got together and they used this huge snake and they churned the Milky Ocean to get all this cool stuff that came out of it. You can Google this stuff, lots of information on the internet about all this. But anyhow, in the process of this, a lot of stuff came out. Lakshmi, the goddess of good fortune, the Kalakuta poison, the worst poison imaginable. But then finally, this thing came out called the elixir of immortality. Now, once that came out, everybody was excited. Everybody wants to live forever. So the gods and the demons were very anxious to get a hold of this nectar of immortality. So Vishnu, God, he disguised himself as Mohini, this beautiful enchantress goddess, really gorgeous, right? And she swayed very seductively in front of the Asuras, the demons, and they were completely fascinated by her. So they weren't aware that she was secretly giving this nectar to the gods who were drinking it, right? Well, there was one demon in particular named Svarbanu who was very intelligent, much more intelligent than the other demons. So he snuck into the assembly of the gods, and he sat there patiently waiting for the nectar, right? And sure enough, Mohini was, dribbling the nectar to all the gods, and a little drop that went on the tongue of Svarbanu. And as soon as that happened, the sun and the moon noticed it, and they said to Mohini, they said, look out, look out. It's a demon is about to get the nectar. And as soon as Vishnu saw it, he pulled out his discus and he decapitated the demon, right? Now, Svarbanu, it had dripped down to his throat, so he became immortal. So even though he was cut in half, both halves, the top half Rahu, the bottom half Ketu, they were destined to live forever. So that's the story of the birth of Rahu. And since the sun and the moon were the tattletalers, they're the ones that Rahu, for the rest of eternity, will harass through solar and lunar eclipses. Okay, that's a very colorful story about how his birth. But the symbolism is very important. Rahu is a head without a body. He is the typical. You ever heard like a parent say to their child, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, right? That's exactly Rahu in a nutshell. It wants more, 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 and it doesn't have a belly, so it can continue to eat and eat and eat and take in food and drugs and sex and all sorts of impressions, healthy or unhealthy, it doesn't matter. It just wants more, more, more. Consumption, consumption, consumption. It's just the mouth is like 24/7, right? So that's my best impression. So the problem is we do have a stomach. We do have a body. And that's one of the problems is that there's obviously very negative consequences to constant consumption, both on an individual level and, of course, on a political and global level. So that's what Rahu represents. Ketu is, we're not going to talk about him much today, but he's the south node. And just as Rahu is compulsively materialistic, Ketu is compulsively spiritual. The opposite, the literally opposites, materialism, spirituality. But it's not a healthy kind of spirituality. It's an obsession with what's hidden, unseen, psychic, whatever. I won't get into Ketu much right now. I'd rather stick with Rahu. But so there is this, and it is said we are in Kali Yuga. You probably heard this before if you follow Vedic culture or thought or seen YouTube videos about this. Even Joe Rogan talks about this, how we're in Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. Some people say we're in Dwapara Yuga. I think we're in Kali Yuga. But anyhow, it's definitely an age of darkness. And so there's this exaltation of all things superficial. In fact, in the Mahabharata, when they talk about the Kali Yuga, they mention that this is an age where, men are only respected for their wealth, women are only respected for their sexuality, Business are run only for profit, not for the public good. People who rise to high political office do so based on violence and intrigue rather than on qualities of good character. And it goes on and on. Brother versus brother, nation versus nation, wars and rumors of wars and all this kind of stuff. But it's mainly based off this basic desire for just more, more, more. It's evolution's 3 billion years of programming. Bigger, faster, stronger. The more mates you can have, the better. The more territory you can have, the better. The more food, the more housing, the more better, better, better. Even if it doesn't even make you happy, it doesn't matter. It's a compulsive force. Both Rahu and Ketu represent things which are compulsive in nature. It's the person that takes the next alcoholic drink, even though they know they're an alcoholic, they know that it's bad for them, they can't help it. It's the drug addict who takes another hit, even though he knows it's bad for him, he knows he shouldn't be doing it, he does it anyhow. It's the banker who steals more funds through some slush fund or whatever, knows he'll probably get in trouble, knows he could end up going to jail, knows he could ruin his family. I gotta have more, man. Gotta have more. So it's this compulsive, materialistic obsession, which is, a huge part of our culture. It's part of the world, So artificial intelligence really plays into this in many different ways. Number one, again, it's intelligence devoid of consciousness. Just like a head without a body. It's sort of like a body without a soul, essentially, right? It's intelligence, but with no ethics, morality, decency, no contemplation. According to Hindu thought, you can't have intelligence without consciousness. There's no such thing. So we're calling it artificial intelligence, but that's just a nomenclature we're giving it. It really doesn't mean anything in Vedic thought. It's just a device, basically. But it is important. It is shaping our world economically, commercially, scientifically, and I honestly think it's extremely dangerous. Because we don't know how AI is going to develop. It will probably follow the same unpredictable path that Rahu himself usually, Rahu is unpredictability in many ways. So, but again, it goes back to this desire for more, 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 right? Do we really need it? Well, some people would say it'll create advances in technology. Maybe we'll be able to repair somebody's eyesight or ears or lungs, or maybe AI will eventually be able to do things that human beings couldn't do. But usually it's just a device used by corporations to make even more money and have more success and more this and more that. Again, this whole idea that if you keep chasing the next desire and the next dream, you're eventually going to become happy, quite honestly, is idiocy. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of years have human beings been trying to be happy by getting more? Like, has there ever been a time in history where somebody said, you know what, I did it. I got the kingdom, I got the girl, I got all the friends, I conquered my enemies, that's it, life's perfect. It's just perfect right now. It's just going to be perfect. No, the next day there's another desire and another desire. So it reminds me of a story. There was an Indian Swami who used to tell the story, which I really like. It was this guy, Nasruddin. He wasn't too bright. But Nasruddin wanted to go for a ride one day. So he went to the stable and he went looking for a horse. And the horses were pretty expensive. He said, don't you have a horse I can ride for a couple hours? It's just like $10 or something. And the guy's like, well, we only have one horse like that, and it's uncontrollable. So you better be an expert horseman. And Nasruddin was like, oh, yeah, I'm an expert horseman. I can do this. And so he decided to rent the horse, right? And he started riding the horse. And, of course, in an instant, the horse just takes off like a bat out of hell, right? Just going like crazy. And Nasruddin can't control it. He's trying to control it. He thinks he can control it. He can't control it. And all the townspeople and everybody are kind of gathering around, and they can see that Nasruddin is heading for a cliff, right? And they're like, Nasruddin, where are you going? And he said, don't ask me, ask the horse. This is kind of where technology is leading us, right? We don't even know where we're going. We don't know where this is going to land. Most of the quote-unquote secular progressives, the liberals, if you want to call them that, the people in society who just want more and more change, more and more technology, more and more this, more and more that, whatever their political affiliation, it's this lust for more, and there's no logic behind it. It's like, where's it going to land? When are you going to get to a point where you're like, okay, life's good now? Is that ever going to happen? No, it's just more and more. And in fact, we could be heading to a cliff. I mean, Elon Musk says we're awakening the demon. And I honestly believe that could very seriously be true. A lot of people think, well, there's no reason artificial intelligence would ever turn against us. Well, that presumes you know exactly how it works. Look, I worked in the IT field. I worked as a computer programmer. I've been doing this for 20 years. So I know a lot about computer systems, database systems, normalization of systems, whatever. I don't know that much about artificial intelligence, but I do understand the concept. That it's a self-learning machine. There was a famous AI engine. I'm a master level chess player, and I was very aware of when the AI engine started beating stockfish. All this engine was taught was the rules, and it started learning from itself, and it beat the best chess engine on earth. So artificial intelligence is a real thing, but we don't know how it learns. We literally have no idea how it programs itself. If it's a grade or two above our intelligence level, we're not even going to understand how it's programming itself. It may just one day come up with an arbitrary distinction and say, you know what, these organic beings that created us are not particularly auspicious. They probably need to go. And they might just destroy us as easily as we step on an ant. We have no idea what's coming. The movie The Terminator, people bring up that movie, say it's just science fiction. Well, it's heading more and more towards the realm of science fact. It's pretty sad. But anyhow, um, America is going through a Rahu phase. I'm currently going through a Rahu phase. Israel is currently going through a Rahu phase. So a lot of people and governments and things, it's tough when you're in a Rahu phase because Rahu clouds the mind. It clouds your judgment. It makes it hard to see through, right? What is the right decision? What should I be doing right now? Often these impulses and desires become so strong, you can't think straight. Just like you'll do something, you'll be like, why did I do that? It's like, or you'll pursue some desires. Like, God, I so thought that if I got that job, if I got that girl, that I would be happy. And you really honestly believe it, 100%. You're 100% convinced. And then it happens, and you're like, poof. It's like the illusion just kind of goes. So it's it's usually quite a challenging time. Dealing with a Rahu Mahadasha cycle, it's important to understand where it's placed in your chart, where the illusions are likely to come from, what the Lord of Rahu is doing. Um, Anyhow, but I get more into chart interpretation in other videos and such. I just wanted to bring up uh, Rahu and its impact on the modern age because it's very important. So Rahu rules things like all the earthy desires, alcohol, drugs, sex, uh, any kind of intoxication, political power. Rahu definitely rules politics. In fact, I just published a book. I mentioned this in the last video. It's going to be dropping the next day or two, and I'm going to post a video when that happens. Provide a link for that. Hasn't They're still working on some refinements of publishers, but yeah. So I talk a lot about that. Rahu rules politics. He rules old kind of group conflicts and things like, for instance, anti-Semitism is a big part of it. When Adolf Hitler came to power, he came to power in his Rahu phase. And the minute, once he starts talking about anti-Semitism, boy, it just caught on like wildfire. People just bought into it, believed it. It was kind of this thing that was hiding underneath the surface. It had always been around, but, you know, the minute Rahu shows up, it just seems like these ancient hatreds and prejudices and things just come back in full force. Same thing with Israel, hit their Rahu phase, instantly got attacked by Hamas. You see chants and all around the world supporting Hamas, even though I don't want to get into the politics of that, but it's just, yeah, it's quite difficult when you're dealing with a Rahu phase. So I mentioned, remedies in the book, and I can tell you that I would stay away from gemstones for Rahu. I mentioned kind of an entertaining story in the book about what happened when I wore a gem for Rahu. It was very negative. Again, just like any other gemstone, some people may try it out, it may work for them, but generally speaking, I would stay away from that. Usually, Rahu represents everything artificial. I mentioned AI, obviously artificial intelligence, but it rules everything artificial. Artificial junk food, processed food, too much images, too much TV, movies, imagination, science fiction, all that kind of stuff. Again, in small doses, those things are fine, but getting out in nature, getting in touch with the rhythms of nature, going to the beach, spending time in the ocean, spending time by lakes, rivers, fishing, anything that gets us in contact with nature and the harmonies and rhythms of nature. Maybe you're a fan of astronomy. You want to get like a telescope, go out, look at the sky at night, away from civilization, um, meditation, yoga, anything that gets us away from artifice is probably one of the healthiest things we can do if Rahu is causing an affliction in our charts. Um, if anybody wants to post their particulars in the comment section, and you want me to look at some aspect of your chart, I might do that. Let me know if you want me to post it. I won't mention your name, but I may look at that and do that. And there'll be a lot of more videos coming in the future. I'm not only going to be doing videos on Vedic astrology, I'm also going to do videos on Ayurveda and health-related stuff, because I think that's important. I have diplomas of both Jyotish and Ayurveda from the American Council of Vedic Studies in New Mexico. I studied with David Frawley, so. Anyhow, I hope you guys have a great new year, and look forward to your comments, and I'll be making more of these videos in the future.